I got into construction kind of by happenstance. I inherited a home when I was in my early 20s, and it needed a lot of work. And I reached out to different companies and I was trying to get some renovation done. And I really couldn't find a clear answer as to, I didn't get it in the format I wanted to see it. From a client perspective, what I got was I got a scope of work and then one big number at the bottom. And I couldn't ever understand how they got to that number. And nobody ever shared the breakdown. And I felt like that was very difficult to swallow. So I thought that there's this huge market gap. If I could have in a transparent way show what it would cost to manage the project and then all the costs, the true cost of construction below that, I thought that people would be very receptive to it. Although at that point I needed to learn how to build. So what I used was the equity from the home I inherited to start flipping properties. And I invested in these houses and I started building them. And I kind of cut my teeth on my own dime. And then over the years, as I grew confident in the ability to execute the work, I started doing it for other people. And now we're at the point where, we basically manage 5 projects at any given time. And we also do architectural design. And so that's kind of how I got into the industry. We focus, our niche is essentially older Toronto homes and buildings, and it's substantial renovations. So it's those two things combined. And construction management for renovations of older buildings, in my opinion, is one of the most complicated types of residential construction. A new construction is relatively straightforward in the fact that as a baseline that essentially you're just working on native soil and you're building everything up. Renovations are much more difficult because you're walking into a little bit of the unknown, right? No matter what you do, no how much you prepare, there's still this variable. And so with renovations, it requires a different skill set in totality. You need to be able to have systems in place that deal with the eventualities. And that's why, frankly, the way I've set it up is so that when we have our management fee, it's completely explicit. And then the cost of construction is the cost of construction. And because once again, you don't know exactly what you're walking into all the time. Construction management to me means that we're in first position with the client. And what that means is that I'm making a promise to you, right? My company or me personally is making a promise to you to be involved with you from the conception, like I want to build something or I want to renovate my house, to me handing you keys, right? It's one back to pat and it's one throat to choke, right? You have that one point of contact, right? And that was kind of the inception between One York and East York and North York and all together as well. But construction management for us looks like we're involved at every step of the process. Originally, we didn't have an architectural design part of the company, and it became very clear in our first or second year where I was like, no, that needs to be in-house because the design and the execution of the work are so closely linked, right? So for us, it's architectural design, it's bringing in consultants, so structural engineer, geotechnical engineer, mechanical engineer, bringing those people in, integrating their input into the project. It's, then doing all the permit acquisition, it's going through pre-construction, so deciding basically everything that needs to get involved into the project. So paint color, trim profile, everything, like the tile, the flooring, everything, kitchen design, reflected ceiling plans, you can go nuts here. Everything that needs to be decided on the project is done before the project starts. And then obviously the construction aspect. But it's interesting the fact that we're actually shifting the company towards more architectural design and pre-construction because I feel like that's where the value lies for the greater good of people out there looking for renovation. If you can understand the project plan, if you can have a really well-developed architectural design that shows the wall sections, that's specific to older homes, and you can have construction sets, not only just permit sets, but construction sets to give to the trades executing the work, and you have a clear understanding of what work is getting done. Like for the tile guys, it's like you have a tile layout, the elevation of the shower shows where the niche is, the height, the thickness, the material, the offset for the tile, the grout color, the tile edge, all of that stuff decided. So that when you get into construction, you're essentially just showing off. You're just showing off all the hard work you did in pre-construction. So we're shifting more towards doing architectural design in pre-construction because at that point, when all that's been decided, you can hand it over to anyone and they should be able to infer everything that needs to be decided. One of the major fallacies in the industry right now is that I have clients who say, I've interviewed 4 different contractors. I'm like, okay, cool. And how have you told them or expressed to them what scope of work you want to have as part of their preliminary estimate? Well, I walked with them through the house and I told them all the things I want to do. And I'm like, yeah, that's rough, because now you're thinking that you're consistently saying the same thing and then everybody's hearing the same thing. And if their estimates aren't explicitly breaking everything down, you're not going to get an apples to apples comparison, right? And so everything that we do and the way that we approach it is that it's super explicit. Like when we have estimates, like they're all linked to quantity takeoffs, they're all color coded, it's all organized by trade. And so when we say we're doing, the millwork, or we say that we're doing, the perfect example, when we're doing the electrical work, well, how many pot lights, how many duplex receptacles, how many GFCIs, right? How many surface mounted items are you doing? Are you replacing the electrical panel, right? All of those things are listed so that if you need to get another estimate, you know what we're saying as our baseline. Construction management for us is end to end. It's architectural design, quantity takeoff and estimation, consultant coordination, permit acquisition, pre-construction, construction, and then the consulting afterwards. So it's the whole thing. I look for every opportunity to create an efficiency. This is a busy business. Like there is a lot going on every day, right? And so every opportunity that comes up when we have like time to work on business development, which we dedicate on Fridays, we look at ways to make things easier, faster, better, better for the client, better for us, right? So over the years, we've adopted a lot of different technologies, and like I prepared a quick list here for you, but let's just start at the top. Like when we take on a new project, we purchased a Matterport camera. It's a 3D scanning camera that scans the interior environment of a home. We started using that on all of our projects at all of the phases of completion. So we do it when we take on a project. So when the house is completely empty and we assume responsibility for it, we take a Matterport, because that sets the baseline the day that we got the project. We do it again post-demolition, right? So then we know at that point, when everything was stripped out and everything is new going back in, what did it look like, right? We do it after we have after all the MEP roughing, prior to spray foam insulation or any kind of insulation we put up, right? So that we understand where all of the mechanical, electrical, plumbing is behind the walls. Like for example, like the classic one that everyone does is like, oh, where did that thermostat wire go? Oh, great. Go back to the Matterport, go check. You can take a measurement and you're like, oh, boom, right there, right behind the wall. Or the client calls me in 2 years and says, Eric, I want to put up a TV on this wall. Am I going to hit anything? And I'm like, I don't know. I'm going to go back to the Matterport and check. I'm like, nope, screenshot. No, you're clear. Just, put it up there. You'll be fine. Then we do it again when we're doing, we do it after we close out. So we have all of this technology that you can walk through the environment and see it. But then it's also for me, for estimating. Like if I have to say, okay, well, what does the interior of that home look like? Or what is exactly that circumstance there, right? So it helps us as a reference when we're doing Zoom meetings with our clients. It helps us for document control, so that pretend say at the end of the project there's a concern. Well, was that existing before? We know for sure that it was or was not, right? We use obviously drafting and rendering software. We use Revit for all of our drafting, and we use Twinmotion for all of our renderings. We use quantity takeoff software for estimating, so that we have all of that built out. Like I personally built out items and assemblies that make sense for us in the way that we budget with our subcontractor prices. And then we also bi-weekly update all of the numbers in our systems for dimensional lumber, or for baseboard or shoe molding or crown molding, or the cost of doors or the cost of whatever, right? All of those things are updated so that when I provide estimates to people, it's listed. If I'm saying it's a 11 7/8 LVL, it's this amount per linear foot. Boom, 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 it's all there. It's all explicit. We use expense tracking software for all of our guys. So if the guys make a purchase in the field, they take a photo, it gets a drop-down menu to a job site, then a drop-down menu to what kind of expense it is, then it's uploaded right to our accounting software. So we don't lose anything, right? We have vehicle tracking software. So all of our vehicles are tracked. We know where they are at all different times. Then it gives us our mileage for a CRA. Like you can see how technology changes the game. Like it changes everything for us, right? We have task management software for our internal team, so that they come in on Monday mornings for our morning staff meeting. They get assigned their to-do list for the week. They go out. They can tell us 100% complete, 50% complete. Make a comment, right? And then obviously our project management software that we use, that's our big one. It has scheduling, it has time clock for our guys. All of our guys have phones, they're geo-fenced to the project. So when they get to the project, they punch in, right? And if they leave, it punches them out, or they punch out on their own. We have daily logs for our clients so they can see the progress on site. We upload photos and videos. We have health and safety actually integrated into the app. Christina and I went down to Omaha and worked with the developer of the app that we use, or the program that we use, to integrate all of the occupational health and safety requirements so that we have checklists. Like if our site supervisor's there, he goes through the toolbox talks and all that kind of stuff. For document control, all of the files are uploaded there so the clients can have access to the One York app on their phone. Obviously, and then the budgeting and client communication. So everything is through that app. We even have for our standard operating procedures and all of our procedures from trade transitions, right? So like from let's just say setting up a job site, right? For setting up a job site, we need to communicate with the neighbors. We need to establish a landing area. We have to talk to, get the site safety station set up. We have to get temporary power. We have to get temporary lighting. We have to decommission the water, the gas. We have to do all of these things. So we have checklists for every trade transition throughout the entire project, and it's available to all of our staff in the field. So that's available online to anybody. They just sign in with our information, and then there's a step-by-step process for literally everything we do, whether that's from the operations side or that's from the architectural design side. But the trick is here that you're not relying on memory. Like when I started doing this, I remember like, oh my God, I think about it and I get stressed out because I'm like, I would be like, okay, what do I have to do? And then I would just know it. But like, you can't just rely on your memory. The busier you get, you're gonna forget something. So it's like, when Christina came on board and I was like, let's start listing everything. Well, let's just go through, like, imagine we're building a home for fun, right? What would we need to do to get from plumber to tile guy? What would we need to do to make sure we're doing, from framing to drywall, like make sure all the back framing is done, checking all the corners, right? All of these things so that you're no longer relying on the fact that you just know it or you're trying to remember in that time. It's all listed there. So we become more efficient. That's the whole point of the technology, is that you're able to do more with less. Any opportunity where you can have a competitive edge, you have to be able to do it. And that leads us to you guys. It's like now we use TOOLBX. Like you guys are an extension of our team. Like when I know you're going to be there. I can call you. I can call dispatch. We can punch it into our app. I know that you guys are offering QTO services on your own now, and you're giving us, the opportunity for comparing prices from different suppliers. Like these are all great service offerings. So TOOLBX is growing in the same way that we're growing. And the way I think about it is that you guys are an extension of our team, just like we have other, different services we offer that are very similar, that also service in the same way, but it's an extension of our team. We know that our guys can stay on site. We can place the orders for like next Tuesday, next Wednesday, or whatever it is, and the material is going to be there. And that's huge for us. When I got my first phone call by Eric, I didn't know him at all. Like, I don't know him outside of this business. But with any good business, and this goes for my business and his business, it's just a really good business is just a really good idea that's undeniably good, right? Like in the way that Eric says, we can make your job sites run more smoothly, and we can have your guys stay on site and work better, and you can be more productive, and like the billing is clear, and everything is there, right? Like what's the downside to that, right? Where it's an obviously good idea. The same way for us, it's like we're going to be completely transparent. We're going to invest in listening to you to understand what your long-term goals are, and then build a home around that, right? And just always be honest, trustworthy, and fair, right? And your value proposition is very clean. It's not selling if you're helping, right? When I heard his pitch to me, it was like, I have something that's going to help you. I mean, yes, he's going to make money, right? That's a business, but you're helping first. That's how I feel when I sell to clients as well. I'm helping you. You have a problem, you have a problem. You need to renovate your home, and that's a hell of a thing. It's very challenging, right? But I know how to do it, so I can help, right? Fair compensation is necessary, but at the end of the day, same thing with Eric and his business. He's like, hey man, I know the nightmare that could be like having guys off site and having material there and how difficult that is sometimes. I have something that's going to make your life easier. And so it's just a good business is something that's undeniably helpful. If you're enjoying your work, right? And I like to hire people who enjoy what they do, right? Which only makes sense once again. But if they're doing something that they enjoy and they get distracted and they have to go do something else and then come back to it, the day is short, man. The days are not that long. If you lose 2 hours in the middle of the day, like that's not a little bit, man. That's 25% of your day. So keeping these guys on site and keeping them working, as soon as I realized this was an option for us, I was like, yeah, 100%. Sign me up. And I have never second guessed it. We'll always be using a service like this. Yeah, I have no interest in going anywhere else. TOOLBX has always been fantastic with us. So like I said, this is just an extension of our company. I don't need to transport goods as much, right? So that means I don't have to have as many or large vehicles, right? Which means I don't have to have the insurance or pay for the gas or pay for the ownership or the maintenance or the registration or the risk of just having a vehicle on the road. I mean, there's inherent risk in just having that, right? And then obviously the big one is the opportunity cost of not having the guys on site. But ultimately, all of those things affect my bottom line, right? If I don't have to have as high overhead, right, then I can make more money, right? As long as I can have that outsourced to you. I don't have to worry about my guys going to and from site with my vehicles and risk an accident and wear and tear and all that kind of stuff because they're on site working. And then the guys are happier too, frankly. I mean, like, they don't have to go, like if we have to pick up like lumber for, a main floor or an addition or whatever else. I mean, with the white glove service, the guys will move it to the floor that we need. So I don't have to worry about my carpenters breaking their back and, trying to lug up lumber. Like, once again, like that's not what they're good at, right? Like, you guys fill that gap. You make my staff happier. You make me happier by affecting my overhead that I need to carry to get the work done that I need to get done. And it's all about the opportunity cost. So it's just, it makes a lot of sense. There's no reason why you wouldn't be using a service like TOOLBX. In the 3 years that we've been consistently using TOOLBX, I don't have to get involved. Like, my site staff, my site supervisors, they speak directly to TOOLBX. They speak to dispatch. They, confirm, like, if, say those red heads aren't in stock and not in that dimension, or is this okay? They call my site supervisor. Now that I've made the decision, it's kind of got its own sea legs. Like, it does its own thing. It's just integrated, like I said, like an extension of the company. So I think that the best answer to this is that I don't speak to my sales rep. As the person who's chosen to bring this service as part of our process, once you make that commitment, the TOOLBX team will work with your team to find the solution, right? And sometimes it's iterative. Not every time, we can find the materials we're looking for from that job site. But the great thing is that you guys call us and then sort it out. But I think that's an important thing to say, that you work with our staff and you're easy enough to work with where it just becomes part of everyone's day-to-day life. And so my concern is that in this industry, there are so many people out there with maybe not the best intentions. And what this industry really lacks is trust. Everybody has horror stories about their contractors. They make shows about this, right? So we need to bring trust back into the industry. And the only way we're going to do that is through these systems that we've put in place to make sure that there are no gaps in knowledge. There's no gaps in understanding. We have a mutual understanding of what we're doing at what price, what happens if this happens. If we always have, in our contracts, you'll see that we have backups on backups. Like, if we have a change order, it's paid in that month, right? There's no gray area, and all the decisions are kind of made up front. It's important to have these difficult conversations up front. There's so much risk in construction, and it's such an incredible gray area. Like, give you some background. I went to school for engineering first, and then I finished my degree in finance. Then I became a chef, right? And I flipped homes, and now I run a construction management company. And that sounds like there's no formal training for this. So the only thing I can do is put systems into place and be explicit as possible on what the scope of the work is. It's got to come from a logical perspective. I build 12 homes a year, and I've been doing this for a long time, right? This is your first, I'm guessing, usually, or second, right? So communication is key. And so for us, I mean, it's the communication of our schedules, what's happening that day, the process, the expectations around the project, and that's all supported through our project management software. But everything comes down to communication, even with TOOLBX. It's like when we reach out to you, we have it on the app. I don't need to call and answer the phone. Like I can just punch it in my app and boom, 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 it's there, right? Then with you guys, you communicate the invoice to us almost immediately, and then we just add that into our project billing. Like it's just the efficiency. So in any opportunity, you look at any process, anything that is a consistent, predictable thing that occurs on a job site, if you're able to systematize that in any way, right, to take out that manual input from it, that's going to be your edge. So we consistently look for that at any opportunity in the work that we do. This system that Eric's put in place and TOOLBX and creating further specialization within trades, right? Allowing this to be its own new kind of trade and taking it away from that independent contractor or the worker on site. I mean, that's just good common sense, right? So as soon as I heard it, as soon as I knew it was available, as soon as it was on a platform that I could like look on my phone and be like, this material, and it was easy. As soon as that like stepped into that hone process in the app that we have now, I mean, it's a no-brainer. So as soon as that was available, we jumped on board, and it's been a fantastic asset for the company. It's about feeling valued, right? It's about being there when we need them. Like I've had circumstances where I've called Eric or called this dispatch, or a year ago, my site supervisors called dispatch with like a one-of thing. It's like, hey, listen, we're in a bit of a pinch. Can you go grab X, Y, Z, right? And it's not necessarily even, I think there was just like handle sets, and they were further, like way farther away than they should have been. And it's like you guys kind of bent over backwards for us and like went and got it. There's something about working with TOOLBX where it's when you call in, you get somebody. It's like you can speak to somebody, and then if you know them well enough, like we know everyone's name at dispatch, like we know the drivers who come to our job sites, and so it just becomes like I keep on saying it, but it can't be more than the truth. It's just that you guys have just become an extension of our company. We know everybody intimately with you guys, and you guys know us, and so there's an expectation there. Like we have familiarity in the processes, and so long term, I would just say keep it up. Like just really adapt and change and keep your ear to the ground in terms of what's available and changing in the industry. But like the model that's been put into place is very successful. And the key to long-term relationship is going to be keeping it personal. It's going to be how you approach the different residential sectors differently. And that there are platforms and there are systems in place for like substantial renovation that just don't occur in home construction, right? So the next thing is that I feel like what's going to happen in every service, it's just that you're going to become more specialized. You'll have, mixed use buildings, you'll have mixed use renovations, you'll have residential renovations above 500,000, below 500,000. You'll have new construction under $1 million, over $1 million, right? And then you'll have service offerings that cater to the particular contractors in those industries, because you can't be good at everything, right? You just can't. If you become more specialized, you'll become better in that smaller niche, and then you can get to the top of that list in terms of like the best in that industry as it becomes more defined. So contact's going to follow that. As contractors become more specific, there will be more specific content and services for those people.